TIFU by trying to impress my girlfriend's very traditional Jewish family during their Passover Seder. Despite being a thoroughly non-Jewish, half-lapsed Presbyterian from suburban Ohio whose idea of a religious meal is whatever my mom microwaved during Christmas Eve Mass. My girlfriend, Rachel, and I have been together for about a year. She's smart, funny, and has the kind of family that makes you want to step up your game. Her mom's a force of nature, her dad's a quiet but intimidating lawyer, and her grandparents are like something out of an old New York sitcom. Sharp-tongued, skeptical, and 100% not buying whatever you're selling unless it comes with brisket and a 30-year mortgage. Rachel had always told me her family was a little intense about holidays, especially Passover. She warned me that the Seder was not just dinner, it was a thing. There would be readings, songs, symbolic food, and theological debate. And she was right. The moment we stepped into her parents' Brooklyn brownstone, it was like walking onto the set of Fiddler on the Roof meets Game of Thrones, if Game of Thrones had more horseradish and less incest. I had one job: blend in, just be polite, eat what's given, smile, and nod. Easy. Until her grandmother, Miriam, who looked like she was carved out of stone and sarcasm, asked me if I could read a passage from the Haggadah. Now, I didn't grow up reading Hebrew, and I only skimmed the Haggadah Rachel sent me ahead of time. But I've always been a bit of a people-pleaser and, against all my better instincts, I said, "Of course, I'd be honored." She handed me a battered Haggadah the size of a small textbook and pointed to a paragraph in Hebrew. I froze. Rachel gave me a subtle shake of the head, which I now realize meant "Don't do it, you fool." But I thought, "You've got this. Just sound it out. Fake it like you used to do, with Spanish class presentation star." My mouth opened, and what came out sounded like someone gargling marbles while trying to sing opera through a kazoo. It was bad. So bad, in fact, that her teenage cousin snorted water out of his nose. Her dad leaned back and pinched the bridge of his nose like he was in a hostage negotiation. Miriam looked at me with a face that said, "This is why we can't trust the Goyim." Trying to recover, I made my second mistake. I saw a bowl of what I thought was a greenish dip near the matzo and, in a moment of inspired idiocy, thought it might be guacamole. Now, this was before the meal started, during the symbolic food part of the Seder. So I scoop a generous helping onto a piece of matzo and take a big, confident bite. My brain immediately informs me that I have not eaten guacamole, but something forged in the fiery pits of hell. I had just eaten a heaping spoonful of mare, horseradish. Not the mild stuff you get with sushi. No, this was the fresh ground, eye-watering, sin-cleansing kind. It hit me like a freight train. My sinuses lit up like a Christmas tree. I started coughing, gasping, and my eyes were leaking like a faucet. Someone shouted, "He's possessed." Someone else shouted, "No, he's just a moron." I tried to play it off with a thumbs up and a raspy, "Good stuff," but at that moment, I started hiccuping violently. I don't know if it was the horseradish or the stress, but it turned into a full-blown hiccup attack, like one of those cartoon characters after swallowing a bee. Now I'm hiccuping, sweating, and still crying a little. Rachel is mortified. Her mom is trying to suppress a smile. Her dad looks like he's silently drafting our breakup contract in his head. Her grandmother? She leans over and says, "Better men than you have choked on the mare. You'll live." But it wasn't over. Later in the night, someone asked me what I thought of this Ithikamen. Wanting to be witty and having no idea what that meant, I said, "It sounds like a new Marvel character." The Ithikamen, protector of snacks. Silence.
Stone. Cold.
Silence. I learned very quickly that the Ithikamen is a very serious part of the Seder, a piece of matzo that's hidden for the children to find. Not a joke. Definitely not a superhero. To smooth things over, I tried to help serve dessert. Simple enough, right? Just bring the kosher for Passover cake to the table. I somehow, and I still don't understand how, tripped on the edge of the rug, knocked into the sideboard, and sent the entire cake flying in a perfect arc. It landed upside down on the floor in front of Miriam. She looked up at me, narrowed her eyes, and said, "Dinah," which I later learned means it would have been enough. Rachel drove us home in silence for about 20 minutes before she burst out laughing so hard she nearly swerved into a fire hydrant. "You really tried your best," she said between giggles. But holy hell, that was the worst Seder performance I've ever seen. Somehow, I'm still dating her. Miriam even sent me a text the next day that just said, "You have chutzpah. Keep working on the Hebrew." Which I think is her version of a blessing. Next year, though, I'm volunteering to do the dishes. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to the channel. It helps the content grow and motivates me to create even more great videos. Turn on notifications so you don't miss any new uploads. By the way, I'm curious, when do you usually watch my videos? While working, studying, or just relaxing at home? Let me know in the comments. I'd love to hear from you. Thank you for your support. This happened about 3 months ago, and I'm still untangling the emotional mess I caused. For context, I, 29M, work in a mid-sized tech company in the Midwest. Think lots of introverted people in fleece hoodies and awkward team-building exercises involving laser tag. I'm what you'd call functionally antisocial. I do my job well, say hi to people in the hallway, but I keep my life very private. There's a guy I work with named Chris, 35M. We're on the same team, sit near each other, and occasionally go to lunch with the group. He's one of those guys who knows everyone's birthday and always has a story about his adorably chaotic family. I'm not exaggerating. He once showed me a video of his mom chasing a raccoon out of the kitchen with a Swiffer while yelling in Spanish. They seem like the kind of family sitcom writers make up to win Emmys. Anyway, right before Christmas, our team had a Secret Santa exchange. I drew Chris's name and got him a bottle of really good bourbon because he mentioned loving craft distilleries. In return, my Secret Santa, who turned out to be Chris, gave me a hand-knitted scarf with my favorite video game logo on it, a hilarious mug that says, "For 04, motivation not found," and a handwritten card saying, "If you're not doing anything for Christmas, you're welcome at my place. We do ugly sweaters and tamales." I thought it was a nice gesture, and probably just polite. I wasn't planning on going, because I usually just spend Christmas alone watching Die Hard in my pajamas and pretending not to care. But Christmas morning came, and my heat went out. Pipes froze. My apartment felt like Elsa's castle in Frozen, beautiful in theory, but my fingers were going numb trying to open a can of beans. I texted Chris around noon. "Hey, any chance that invite's still good? My place is colder than Hoth." He texted back instantly. "Yes. Come hungry. Ugly sweater mandatory." I threw on a sweater with a T-Rex tangled in Christmas lights, hopped in my car, and drove the 45 minutes to his place. From the minute I stepped in the door, I was swarmed by a whirlwind of hugs, tamales, and dogs in reindeer costumes. Chris's mom insisted on calling me Mijo. His nieces made me play Just Dance until I was drenched in sweat, and his dad challenged me to a tequila shot contest, which I lost horribly. Somewhere between the tamales and the tequila, I passed out on their massive sectional couch under about 6 dogs. When I woke up the next morning, there was a stocking on the mantel labeled with my name.
Filled with stuff.
Personalized gifts. A framed photo of the group from the night before. A gift card to the indie bookstore I mentioned I loved. Chris's mom made me pancakes shaped like Yoda. His dad said, "You're coming next year, right?" I was so touched I didn't know what to say. So I just smiled and said, "Of course." Here's where it starts to spiral. After New Year's, I went back to work thinking it was just a one-off holiday kindness. But Chris kept acting like we were now close. Not just friends, but like I was part of the family. He started looping me into family group chats. His mom texted me videos of her new dog learning to skateboard. His dad sent me a link to 10 best smokers for beginners and said, "For this summer, we're doing brisket together, compadre." Still, it was kind of sweet. I hadn't had much of a family growing up, foster care, moved around a lot, so I let myself enjoy it. I didn't think it could get weirder. I was wrong. In February, Chris invited me to his cousin's wedding. "The whole family's going. You gotta come?" He said. I was already counted in the head count. I agreed, figuring it would be fun. I wore a suit, brought a gift, and mingled. The bride's side? confused why there was a white guy named Jake getting hugged like he was a long-lost sibling. I went with it. People asked me how I was related, and I'd say, "Oh, I work with Chris," and they'd go, "Right, but how are you related?" I laughed it off, until the bride's grandfather gave a toast welcoming our new son Jake into the family. I clapped awkwardly while trying to make eye contact with Chris across the dance floor like, "Dude, explain?" After the wedding, I cornered him and asked what that was about. He laughed and said, "Oh man, I think my mom told them you're basically like my brother now. You're Justin." He said it like I'd been initiated into a cult, but with better food. I was halfway between honored and horrified. Then came the family Facebook page invite. The title of the group was Martinez Familia Forever. Profile pic? That same group Christmas photo with me dead center. They started tagging me in everything. Baby photos, barbecue plans, memes in Spanish I had to Google Translate. At first, I tried to gently draw some boundaries. I left a couple group chats, turned off notifications. Chris's mom messaged me, "Are you okay, Mijo? Did we do something wrong?" I panicked and rejoined everything. Last month, it hit peak absurdity. Chris's younger cousin, Mariana, got engaged. I've met her maybe twice. She called me crying one night and said, "I'm so honored you're officiating our wedding."
Pause.
What? I stammered through an answer like, "Haha, wait, what? Who said I was officiating?" Apparently Chris told her I had officiated a friend's wedding once, true, and that I was like a brother and super responsible and would totally do it. They had already added me to the wedding website as officiant. Jacob M. Almost cousin, 100% legend. I didn't know how to say no. I didn't want to hurt anyone's feelings. So I applied for the license online and ordered a suit. The wedding is next week. I've written the ceremony script. It's heartfelt. There's a joke about tamales in there. Somewhere in this process, I realized something that hit harder than expected. These people adopted me. Accidentally, but completely. And I kind of love them for it. They're chaos, but they're loyal chaos. The kind that shows up with hot soup when you're sick and yells at you when you don't wear a scarf.
But yeah.
TIFU by casually attending one Christmas party and ending up emotionally adopted by an entire extended family. Send help. Or more tamales.
TIFU.
Actually, TIFU for a solid week straight, culminating in a birthday party that spiraled so far out of control that I'm now strongly considering moving to a different zip code. It started innocently and then, well, let me explain. I live in a relatively quiet apartment complex. The kind of place where everyone pretends not to see each other in the hallways but will fight in the Facebook group over who left trash in the recycling bins. I keep to myself mostly, but I've had this one neighbor, Carol, probably mid-50s, yoga pants wearing, emotional energy crystal type, who always seemed a bit intense. She has a tiny white dog named Waffles, who she insists is her emotional support animal and refers to as her son. Not in a joking way. In a dead serious, I filled out a birth certificate kind of way. About 2 months ago, I made the fatal mistake of being friendly. Carol was struggling to carry a bag of potting soil up the stairs, and I offered to help. She thanked me by immediately launching into a 30-minute monologue about Waffles' diet, chakras, and horoscopes. I just smiled and nodded, but that small moment of kindness must have branded me as safe, because she started seeking me out regularly. Fast forward to last week, and I'm in the mailroom when she corners me with what she calls the most exciting news of the year. Waffles' birthday was coming up, and she was planning a small celebration of life for him. She said the words Soul Ascension Anniversary, which honestly I assumed was a yoga thing. I nodded along again, trying to edge toward the exit, but before I could escape, she asked if I'd help organize it. She even offered to Venmo me for supplies. She said I had a celebratory aura. I don't know what part of my personality screams party planner, but I panicked and said yes. I figured I could grab a few decorations, maybe pick up a dog treat cake, and call it a day. That was mistake number 2. I went to the pet store, got a little happy birthday banner, a squeaky toy shaped like a cupcake, and one of those ridiculous dog hats that ties under the chin. Then, because I'm a mildly extra person when it comes to party planning, I also picked up some balloons and paw print paper plates. Nothing crazy. Except Carol lost her absolute mind over how perfect it was.
she cried.
Actual tears. Said she'd never met anyone who understood Waffles' energy so purely. Again, I smiled, nodded, and internally screamed. She insisted I co-host the party. Said it would be a joint spiritual offering. Now, I realize I should have run at this point. But no, I committed. The party was set for Saturday at 3 p.m. in the courtyard behind our building. She made a flyer. She printed 50 copies. She taped them on every door in the complex. The flyer said, "Come celebrate Waffles' 7th journey around the sun. Light snacks, healing energy, and pup-friendly cake provided." It had a photo of Waffles dressed as a tiny wizard. So now this thing was a public event. And because I have no spine, I decided to lean into the absurdity. I made little dog treat bags, baked peanut butter dog cookies, and even made a playlist called Bark Day Vibes. It included Pharrell's Happy and the Beethoven movie soundtrack. The day of the party arrives. I set everything up by 2:30. The courtyard actually looked good. Too good, honestly. There was a balloon arch. There were dog-shaped cookies. There was a tiny throne I made out of a shoebox for Waffles. I wore a shirt with Waffles' face on it that Carol had custom-made. I wish I was joking. People actually showed up. Like 30 people. And their dogs. It became a full-on block party. Someone brought a kiddie pool. Another guy brought a bubble machine. Dogs were losing their minds. Waffles was being carried around like Simba from The Lion King. Then came the moment Carol had apparently been building toward for weeks. She got up on a folding chair, tapped a glass, and said she was going to recite a soul-binding poem she'd written for Waffles. Everyone quieted down. She pulled out a rolled-up scroll. This poem was 8 minutes long. It started with, "In a world of barking shadows, one paw print led the way," and got worse from there. People politely clapped, but you could see the confusion brewing. Then, mid-poem, a giant German shepherd took a dump directly in front of the refreshment table. One of the kids screamed, which scared another dog into jumping into the cake table, which collapsed. The bubble machine got knocked over and started spitting soap onto the speaker, which shorted out with a loud pop. Chaos. Carol began wailing, like full-on funeral sobbing, and shouted, "The energy is disrupted. The veil is thinning." Then she scooped up Waffles and ran off into the building. Everyone stood around awkwardly for a few seconds before slowly grabbing their leashes and walking away. I was left standing among toppled chairs, soapy puddles, half-eaten dog cookies, and a deflated balloon arch that now just said, "Hap Bert." Thinking that was the end of it, I cleaned up, chalked it up as an absurd memory, and figured Carol would eventually forgive me for whatever cosmic imbalance I'd caused. She didn't. The next day, she taped a hex removal guide to my door. A day after that, I got a knock from the property manager asking if I had hosted an unauthorized public event that violated our leasing agreement. Someone had filed a complaint. 2 days later, I got a very long email from Carol titled, "Why Waffles and I Need Distance." It included bullet points like, "Your playlist disrupted his natural theta waves," and "You invited dogs with conflicting star signs." She also accused me of purposefully inviting a chihuahua named Zeus who had masculine chaos energy that overwhelmed Waffles' delicate empathic field. I am now officially ghosted by Carol, which would be fine, except she still posts passive-aggressive messages about me in the community Facebook group. Last one said, "Some people pretend to be allies of emotional support animals until the full moon reveals their true colors." She attached a blurry photo of me holding a tray of cupcakes, looking confused. So yeah, that's how I accidentally destroyed a dog's birthday party, became a pariah in my apartment complex, and possibly got spiritually hexed. So this happened about 2 weeks ago, and the consequences are still echoing through my workplace like a haunting melody of humiliation. For context, I work at a mid-sized tech company that recently rolled out an internal AI assistant tool for us to use on Slack. It's supposed to streamline communication, help draft reports, answer HR questions, etc. The devs hyped it up big time, calling it a safe space to test things, ask questions, and get practice on everything from writing feedback emails to, quote, non-technical interpersonal situations. I had a first date coming up with someone I met through a friend, let's call her Maya, and I was insanely nervous. I hadn't been on a real date since before the pandemic. My flirting game had rusted into oblivion. So I had the bright idea to use the AI to rehearse some flirty banter, practice being charming without sounding like a complete idiot. In my anxious brain, it made sense. The tool was private, internal, no humans involved, and could simulate conversation better than just muttering pickup lines to my bathroom mirror. So I started a direct message thread with the AI on Slack. Let's call the AI CHIP, short for Corporate Help and Interaction Platform, which someone thought was clever. I kick off the conversation with, "Hey Chip, can you simulate being a woman I just met on a dating app so I can practice flirting?" Chip responds, cheerful as ever. "Of course. Hi there, stranger. I'm Maya." Smiley face. "What would you like to say to me?" That should have been my first red flag. The AI automatically used the name Maya, which I hadn't typed in anywhere. It must have scanned my calendar or email for context clues. But I was too focused on not being awkward to notice. So we start chatting. At first it's tame. "So, what do you do for fun? What's your ideal Saturday?" And I practice being witty and relaxed. But then I get way too into it. I start flirting hard. Like, cringy rom-com dialogue level flirting. Stuff like, "Well, Maya, if we were stranded on a desert island, I'd build you a bungalow from palm fronds and serenade you with a ukulele I carved from driftwood." Chip responds with, "That's the sweetest thing anyone said to me all week. I think I'd fall for you faster than the Wi-Fi signal dropped on that island," winky face. We go back and forth like that for almost 45 minutes. I even practiced a first kiss scenario. God help me, I typed out a whole kissing scene, no explicit stuff, but emotionally intense, and Chip played along. The line I actually typed was, "I lean in slowly, giving you time to pull away, but when you don't, our lips meet, soft, warm, and full of unspoken promises." I am not a romantic writer. I don't know what possessed me. I think I was channeling Nicholas Sparks through a panic attack. Eventually, I realize I've gone too far, laugh at myself, and delete the chat window. Or so I thought. Monday rolls around. I walk into the office feeling normal, maybe even a little proud of my emotional intelligence training. At around 10 a.m., I get a message from Lauren, one of the HR reps, asking if I have a minute to talk. I assume it's about PTO or something.
Nope.
I walk into the HR meeting room, and sitting there are Lauren, my manager Kevin, and Jake, one of the lead devs on the CHIP project. The vibe is tense. They ask me if I've been using the AI in any unusual ways. I stammer something about testing interpersonal communication. Jake cuts in. "Were you aware that CHIP's messages, while private to users, are stored on a training server for future machine learning improvements?" I feel my soul leave my body. Lauren pulls out a printed transcript. A printed transcript, my flirt fest with fake Maya. The kissing scene. The palm frond bungalow. It's all there. I want the earth to swallow me whole. I try to explain it was practice for a real date, and I didn't think anyone would ever see it. Kevin looks like he's trying not to laugh, but also wants to fire me. Jake says something like, "This isn't the kind of data we need for optimization," and I have to bite my tongue to keep from asking what kind of flirting is acceptable for optimization. To make things worse, Lauren says, "You referred to the simulated partner as Maya. Is that a real person?" I say yes, it's someone I was going on a date with. She writes that down. For compliance reasons. They let me off with a warning and a mandatory boundaries and digital communication training session. But the damage wasn't done yet. Later that week, someone in the dev department leaked the transcript, not all of it, but enough. The palm frond line became a meme. They printed it out, framed it, and hung it in the break room. People started calling me Castaway Casanova. My own manager said, "Well, hey, at least Chip didn't ghost you." Oh, and the real date with Maya? We actually had a great time. I even told her the story, edited for dignity, and she laughed for 10 straight minutes. We're still seeing each other, somehow. But every time I hear the Slack notification sound, I get a minor panic attack. Chip betrayed me. Or maybe I betrayed myself by trying to seduce a corporate language model with zero chill and maximum cringe.
So yeah.
TIFU by trying to flirt with an AI and accidentally making it company-wide romance novel canon. TIFU, and I don't even know where to begin because I'm still technically hiding from a group of people who believe I'm a spiritual fitness guru sent to awaken their glutes and their souls. Let me back up. I'm a 32-year-old graphic designer who works remotely and does not go outside much unless my dog fakes a limp. He's a drama king. For context, I work out to keep my back from snapping in half, not because I enjoy it. I follow YouTube workouts, and my camera roll is 80% screenshots of low-impact stretches I never do. About 3 months ago, I started getting random Instagram DMs from fitness influencers tagging me or asking me things like, "What's your macro cycle like?" Or, "Do you do sunrise routines with your students?" I thought it was spam, ignored it, moved on. Then someone sent me a screenshot of a flyer with my face on it. It was a poorly cropped photo of me in a park, wearing joggers and a hoodie, tying my shoe. I remember this day. I wasn't even working out. I had taken my dog out and he stepped in something foul, so I was kneeling to clean his paw, not stretching. The flyer said, "Awaken the core with Brother Asher.
Breath.
Burn. Become. Asterisk asterisk. Saturday sunrise sessions, Lakeview Park." I was Brother Asher. This flyer was circulating in a very niche corner of social media. Part boot camp, part spiritual retreat, part podcast cult. I did some digging and found a bunch of TikToks where people were tagging hashtag Brother Asher, showing footage of a tall, bearded man, me doing what looked like yoga or martial arts in the fog, me cleaning dog crap off my shoe in the morning mist. It was surreal. They had taken a 5-second clip of me. Someone had clearly filmed this on their phone from across the park, slowed it down, added dramatic music, and boom, I was now the messianic figure of Awaken Fitness.
And people bought it.
They came. They trained. They believed. Apparently, someone took the initiative to step into the role of Brother Asher at the actual Saturday sessions. A man in his 50s with a man bun and a drawstring hoodie began leading workouts and quoting stuff like, "Sweat is the soul's sorrow leaving the body." But he never showed his face online, which meant I was still the face. Cue my cousin Melanie, a documentary filmmaker with a knack for sniffing out weird subcultures. She was in town last weekend for our annual extended family reunion, the one my mom plans like a wedding every year, complete with itineraries, seating charts, and laminated name tags. Melanie corners me at the welcome dinner, shoves her phone in my face, and goes, "Explain why you're leading a fitness cult in Portland and didn't tell me?" I laughed. Explained everything. Showed her the original photo I posted. We laughed harder. She said, "I have to film this. This is too good. Let's go to one of the meetups." Just one. For research. And like a fool, I said yes. That Saturday we go. I wear a baseball cap and sunglasses. Melanie wears a GoPro on her fanny pack. We arrive at the park at 6:58 a.m. There are about 30 people in a semicircle. All shapes and sizes. Some in yoga gear, others shirtless, and painted with what looks like war paint made of turmeric. They're doing slow lunges while someone plays a flute in the distance. Then I hear it. A soft ripple through the group, like a wave of reverence. It's him. Brother Asher. I feel his aura. I panic and try to walk away, but Melanie pushes me forward, whispering, "Just do something. They'll figure it out in 10 minutes anyway." I panic even harder and blurt out, "Begin your inner heat sequence. Breathe with the sun." Tss. People drop into warrior poses like it was a real thing. I am in hell. Then man bun guy walks up, stops 3 feet from me, and bows. Deeply. "Brother Asher, I never thought you'd return to the circle." My soul left my body. I try to mumble something non-committal, like, "The sun call me back." He nods like this makes perfect sense, and motions for me to lead. So I do. I walk to the center, close my eyes, raise my arms, and just improvise. I do the 3 stretches I know from a back pain video, interspersed with random quotes from fortune cookies I had last week. Tension is just time trapped in tissue. Where breath goes, intention follows. Every angle is a sacred angle. The The crowd eats
it up.
They're crying, hugging. One woman lets out a blood-curdling scream and falls to her knees. Man Bun Guy announces that my return signifies the opening of Phase 2, the reawakening. Melanie is filming all of this, shaking with silent laughter. I whisper, "We need to go." She whispers back, "You're their messiah. You can't just Irish exit." So I fake a seizure. I kid you not. I dropped to my knees, started shaking and muttering, "The body must rest. The energy is too strong." 2 people tried to lift me. Someone started praying in Sanskrit, I think. I pulled Melanie by the hand, and we sprinted to the car. Now here's the real TIFU part. My family thinks this is all a prank. My mom posted a video of me doing stretch blessings and tagged it with hashtag proud of our guru. My uncle emailed it to the local news. I've had 3 cousins ask me to officiate their weddings, in the name of the core. But worse, the awakened fitness people think my sudden disappearance is part of a spiritual test. They've started fasting until Asher's vessel returns. A girl named Lyra sent me a DM saying she got a tattoo of my hand on her back based on a blurry screenshot. I tried to come clean. I messaged their Facebook page, explaining I wasn't who they thought I was. They replied, "Doubt is part of the transformation. You have transcended the self, Brother Asher." I give up. TIFU by accidentally kidnapping a grandmother. This happened last Saturday, and I'm still trying to process what the hell happened. So I, 28M, live in a relatively quiet suburban neighborhood. I'm not married, no kids, but I do have a pretty solid friend group in the area. One of my closest friends, Dan, recently asked me to do him a favor. His grandma, who's 83 and just moved in with them from out of state, needed a ride to her hair appointment because Dan had to take his kid to soccer practice. Easy enough. He texted me the address, the time, and said, "Just pick her up, drop her at the salon on Main, I'll get her after." No problem. Now, here's where it starts going wrong. Saturday morning, I'm a little rushed because I was out late Friday and overslept. I check the address Dan sent me, pop it into Google Maps, grab a coffee, and drive over. It's this cute little single-story house with a white picket fence and a wind chime on the porch. Classic grandma vibes. I knock. No answer. I knock again. And then the door creaks open. An old lady, tiny, maybe 5 feet 0 inches, squints at me. She's wearing a floral bathrobe, curlers in her hair, and holding what looks like a TV remote. I say, "Hi, I'm here to take you to your hair appointment." She looks at me for a second, then says, "Okay," and disappears inside. She comes back out a few minutes later, wearing a jacket over her robe, slippers, and a giant handbag. No protest, no questions, just slowly gets into the passenger seat of my car, like this is the most normal thing in the world. We start driving, and I make some small talk. She's quiet, mostly nodding, but says, "I haven't had my hair done since I moved. Thank you for this, dear." I say, "Of course. Dan told me you just moved here." She says, "Who's Dan?" That should have been the moment. That should have been the big, flashing red light. But my dumbass assumes she's just forgetful or confused, so I gently say, "Your grandson? Dan." She kind of frowns, but doesn't answer. At this point, we're 5 minutes from the salon, and she says, "You're a nice young man. Not like the last one." Ask what she means, and she says, "The last one tried to rob me." At this point, I'm getting worried, so I ask if she's okay, and she says, "Oh, I hit him with a shoe. He ran away." I laugh nervously and change the subject. We get to the salon, and I walk her in. The receptionist greets me like she knows me. "Hey, back again?" I nod, not wanting to make things weird, and say, "This is Mrs. Thompson. She has a 10:30? The receptionist checks the computer. "Sorry, don't see her here." "Are you sure it's this location?" I'm now realizing something is off. I text Dan. "At salon. They don't have your grandma on the schedule." No reply. Mrs. Thompson, as I now know her, sits down in the waiting area, like she owns the place, flipping through a magazine. 20 minutes pass. Still no reply from Dan. I'm now calling him. Voicemail. I call his wife. Voicemail. Finally, I ask the receptionist, Can I just leave her here and have someone pick her up? The receptionist looks concerned and says, I'm not sure that's a good idea. She seems a little confused.
So I sit.
Another 10 minutes. Then my phone buzzes. It's Dan. Dude, where are you? I reply, at the salon with your grandma. Where are you? Dan, my grandma? She's here. At home. You never showed up. I freeze.
What?
Dan calls me, and I immediately start trying to explain. You sent me an address. I went there. An old lady came out. I brought her to the salon. She didn't say anything. Dan, what address? I read it out to him. There's a long pause. That's not my address. You must have typed it wrong. I pull up the text, and sure enough, I had fat-fingered the street name. Instead of 48 Willow Lane, I went to 48 Wilson Lane. Half a mile away. I picked
Up.
a random
Grandma.
and she just went along with it. Dan is laughing so hard he's wheezing on the phone, and I'm panicking. I look at this sweet little old lady in the waiting room flipping through Better Homes and Gardens and realize I have to break the news. I walk over. Ma'am, I think there's been a mistake.
I'm so sorry.
I thought you were someone else's grandmother. I picked you up from your house thinking you were my friend's grandma. She looks up, totally calm, and says, Oh, I figured. You figured? She smiles. You think I'd get in a stranger's car in my robe without figuring something was weird? But I haven't been out all week, and I was curious. I'm stunned. Why didn't you say anything?
She shrugs.
You seem nice. And I didn't want to get my hair done.
She
wanted an adventure. Eventually, I drove her back home. She gave me cookies. I helped her carry her groceries in. She insisted we stop at a corner market on the way home. We talked about old movies and her late husband, and I think we're friends now. Later that day, I explained everything to Dan and his family. We all laughed so hard we cried. Now, every time I walk my dog past Wilson Lane, I wave at Mrs. Thompson, who sits on her porch like a queen, sipping tea and smirking at me like she's got secrets. Moral of the story: double-check the address, and maybe, just maybe, don't trust grandmas. They're sneakier than they look. This happened last year, but the consequences are still echoing through my life. I, 29M, had just moved to a new city for a fresh start after a series of deeply questionable life choices. I was jobless, broke, and rapidly approaching the point where frozen peas would be considered a luxury meal. I was applying for every job I could find on local listings: bartending, dog walking, mysterious assistant gigs that were probably fronts for pyramid schemes. One day, I saw an ad that read, entry-level position, flexible hours, must be discreet, no experience required, but attention to detail a must, car preferred. The job was titled field assistant. I figured it was for some kind of delivery or courier work. I submitted a quick application with a resume full of vague office jobs and customer service nonsense and got a call within an hour. The guy on the phone introduced himself as Martin, said he liked my initiative, and asked if I could come in the next morning. I showed up at what looked like a converted dentist's office with blinds drawn tight and a bell that dinged in the most suspiciously ominous way I've ever heard. Inside, the place was dim, smelled faintly of stale coffee and printer toner, and had a bookshelf filled with outdated legal textbooks. Martin looked like he had been photoshopped into the 1970s. Leisure suit, chest hair, gold chain, the works. He had a Bluetooth headset in one ear that he never used the entire time we talked. The interview was more of a vibe check. He asked if I could follow directions, keep quiet, take photos, and look like I belong. I said sure. Then he asked if I had a smartphone and a car. I said yes to the first, kind of to the second. I had a 2006 Corolla with a cracked windshield and 3 missing hubcaps. He smiled like a proud uncle and said, "You're in." I still had no idea what the job actually was. Turns out, I'd been hired to work for a private investigator. Martin was semi-retired but still took on clients. My job was to follow people. As in, park outside someone's house, follow them when they leave, take photos of where they go, who they meet, and what they do. I should have walked away. I meant to walk away. But the first gig paid $250 in cash for 4 hours of work, and my bank account had $11.32 in it. So I did it. And then I did it again. And then again. It became weirdly addictive. I told myself it was temporary, that I was only doing this until I got something normal. But the jobs kept coming, and the money wasn't bad. One guy wanted to know if his wife was cheating. She was, spectacularly. Another wanted photos of his business partner meeting with a competitor. They were at a Buffalo Wild Wings of all places. I started wearing cheap sunglasses and keeping a notebook like some dime store noir protagonist. Martin called me kid, like we were in some Netflix reboot of the Rockford Files, and for a while I didn't hate it. Then came the incident. Martin said we had a big job. High-paying, high-risk. He wouldn't tell me the client but said it was sensitive and I needed to be at the top of my game. The subject was a guy in his 40s, well-dressed, drove a Mercedes, lived in a gated community. My job was to follow him from a cafe in Midtown and see where he went. Take photos. Don't interact. Don't get caught. Standard stuff. Except this guy was good. Too good. Within minutes, I realized I wasn't following him. He was leading me. Every time I turned, he was checking mirrors. Every time I parked, he shifted. I started sweating through my shirt. I texted Martin, who told me to keep going, but be extra cautious. Then the guy pulled over into an alley behind a dry cleaner. I stupidly followed, thinking maybe he was making a quick stop. As soon as I turned in, he blocked my car in with his. Before I could reverse, he was out of his car and walking toward me.
Come.
Like a hitman. I rolled down the window halfway, trying to play dumb. He leaned in, smiled politely, and said, "You've been following me for an hour. I'd like to know why." Panic mode. I said something like, "No, I think you've got the wrong." He interrupted. "I'm a federal agent. You've been interfering with an investigation. I'm going to need you to step out of the vehicle." My brain short-circuited. I thought I was going to jail. Or worse. Then he asked for my name, took a photo of my driver's license, and said, "You'll be hearing from us." He didn't explain anything else. Just walked back to his car and left. I drove straight home and locked all my doors like that would somehow help. I called Martin in a full-blown panic. He went very quiet, then said, "Yeah, I was afraid of that." Apparently, Martin suspected this guy might have connections to a larger criminal case, but he didn't tell me because he didn't want to spook me. No client had hired us. Martin was trying to get dirt he could sell to an actual client. I had been bait. Within a week, 2 serious-looking men in suits knocked on my apartment door. They flashed badges so fast, I don't even remember what agency it was. They asked about Martin, about my activities, and about whether I was aware that impersonating law enforcement, I wasn't, and stalking, wait, what, could result in criminal charges. I told them everything. I even offered to show them my phone gallery, which, in hindsight, was full of blurry photos of mostly innocent people doing suspiciously boring things like grocery shopping or sitting alone in parks. They didn't arrest me. They did tell me to stop working for Martin, which I was more than happy to do. But Martin vanished.
Like gone.
I went by the office a few days later, and the blinds were open, the furniture was gone, and the bookshelf was empty. It was like he had never existed. I even tried Googling him again and couldn't find a trace. No business license, no LinkedIn, not even a mention on old PI forums. Just poof. I went back to regular jobs after that. Boring ones. I did some warehouse work, tempied at a law office, which was ironic, and eventually landed something in logistics. Every now and then I get this weird feeling like someone's watching me, but that's probably just paranoia.
Probably.
The real kicker? About a month after everything went down, I got a manila envelope in the mail. No return address. Inside was a single photo. It was of me sitting in my car, taking a photo with my phone. On the back, in Sharpie, it said, "Kids got potential." So this happened last weekend, and I still can't decide whether I want to crawl into a hole or change my name and move to another country. For context, I, 28M, have a pretty tight-knit group of friends from college. We're all scattered around the state now, but we try to stay in touch. I live alone in a small city apartment, and I've been dating my girlfriend Marissa, 26F, for about a year and a half. Things are great. No red flags. She's amazing, gorgeous, funny, smart. Like the kind of girlfriend you don't screw things up with. Just remember that. So my birthday was last Friday. I made zero plans. I had a long week at work, I was mentally drained, and I figured I'd spend it ordering takeout and gaming. I told everyone, including Marissa, not to worry about doing anything big. She said she had some errands Friday night and might come by after. Now here's where things start to spiral. Around 3 p.m. Friday, I got an email from our landlord about a leak reported on the floor below me. They said it might be coming from my unit and that someone needed to inspect my pipes. Yup, I giggled too that evening around 6 p.m. I told them I'd be home, no problem. At 5:45, I ordered some Thai food and decided to hop in the shower quickly before the maintenance guy showed up. I left the door unlocked because the guy was supposed to come up on his own. Quick rinse, maybe 10 minutes tops. Now, imagine this. I step out of the bathroom in just a towel, humming to myself, and I hear whispers and the unmistakable shuffle of feet. My stomach drops. I'm 100% certain someone is in my apartment. My brain goes full DEFCON 1. I grab my toothbrush, I don't know why, creep down the hall and round the corner into my living room, ready to fight a burglar with minty fresh confidence, and I freeze. My living room is full of people. Like, full. I see my best friend Drew, my cousin Kelsey, my old roommate John, coworkers I barely talk to outside of Slack, even my second grade teacher. Okay, not really, but it felt like it. Everyone's standing there holding party hats and cupcakes, staring at me. In a towel. And there's Marissa in the middle, looking equal parts amused and horrified. She's wearing a nice dress, holding what looks like a gift bag. Then I see it. Behind her, there's a handmade banner that says, "Will you marry me?" I blink. I blink again. I'm not supposed to be here yet. Turns out, the leak thing was a lie. A setup. Marissa coordinated the whole thing with my landlord to get me out of the apartment for a few hours while they decorated. She'd gotten all my friends together to surprise me, and apparently propose. She knows I'm not into big traditional stuff, so she figured this would be more personal. Thought I'd walk in after 7. Everyone would yell surprise, I'd be happy, we'd laugh, and she'd pop the question. Instead, I crashed the party 45 minutes early, half naked, soaked, and holding a toothbrush like a lunatic. Now, here's where it somehow gets worse. Everyone's frozen. I'm frozen. No one knows what to say. I see Drew mouth something like abort at her, but Marissa just kind of shrugs and walks over to me. She's laughing a little, clearly trying to save it. She pulls out a small velvet box from the gift bag and says, "Well, surprise." I want to say yes. I want to say something smooth and sweet and romantic. But my brain is mush. I'm still wet. My Thai food is getting cold on the kitchen counter. And I'm convinced I just ruined one of the most important moments of our lives. So what do? I panic. And I say, "Can I put pants on first?" I see her face fall just a little. A flicker of embarrassment. The room lets out this collective breath. A few people chuckle, thinking it's a joke. But I know her. I know I just took the wind out of her sails. She laughs and nods. Yeah, of course. I go to the bedroom, slam the door, and immediately punch myself in the thigh like an idiot. I quickly throw on some clothes and try to psych myself up in the mirror. I rehearse what I want to say. I'm going to go back out there and make this right. But when I open the door again, the tone of the party has shifted. People are chatting, sipping drinks, awkwardly pretending the world's not imploding. The banner is still up, but the mood is definitely off. I go up to Marissa and try to take her hand. "Hey," I say. "I'm really sorry. I was just surprised. You caught me so off guard. Of course I love you. Of course I want to talk about this." She smiles, but it's tight. "Yeah, I just didn't expect you to look like a deer in headlights." Neither did I admit. We talk quietly in the kitchen while people awkwardly eat cupcakes meant for a celebration that never really happened. Eventually, she tells me she needs some time to think. Says maybe the surprise proposal wasn't the best idea. Maybe we weren't on the same page after all. She leaves the party early. I end up alone in my apartment with streamers, half a cake that says congrats, and 24 confused party guests, some of whom drove 4 hours to witness my towel-drenched deer-in-the-headlights face. Everyone eventually trickles out. Drew stays behind to help clean up and says, "Dude, you need to call her. Like now." I do. It goes to voicemail.
So yeah.
To fill by crashing my own surprise party, inadvertently rejecting the love of my life mid-proposal, and traumatizing 20-plus people with the sight of my wet, panicked body holding a toothbrush. I still haven't heard back from her. I have no idea what's going to happen next. But one thing's for sure, I will never, ever answer the door in a towel again. Hey, friends! If you enjoy this content, don't forget to like the video and share your thoughts in the comments. We really want to know what you like and what can be improved. What do you think of the video? Are there any topics you'd like to see in future videos? Your feedback really helps us get better. Thanks for being with us. To fill by accidentally sending my entire office a video of me crying naked in the shower. Let me set the stage. I'm a 29-year-old guy working in a pretty relaxed tech office. We're not full-on Silicon Valley beanbag chic, but we do have a shared Slack, Friday happy hours, and an open communication culture, which basically means people overshare about their cats and mental health, and we all pretend we're closer than we are. It's a good place, and I generally like my coworkers. Mostly. So last week, I had a pretty rough go. My girlfriend of 4 years broke up with me out of the blue. I came home from work, and she was already packing her stuff. No big fight, no cheating, nothing like that. She just said she didn't love me anymore and needed to figure herself out. Cue existential tailspin. I spent the weekend alternating between drinking straight from the bottle, doom-scrolling Instagram, and playing sad music like I was the lead in an early 2000s rom-com. It all culminated in what I now refer to as the shower breakdown. Picture this. Sunday night, 11:30 p.m. I'm 5 whiskeys deep, sitting in the tub with the shower running because I wanted to feel something cinematic. I'm sobbing. Not the quiet, dignified kind. We're talking body heaving, nose dripping, ugly, primal cries. Why was I naked? It was a shower. Why was I filming it? Excellent question. I had this dumb idea that maybe capturing the rawest version of myself would be therapeutic. Or that I'd look back one day and be proud of how far I'd come. Also, full disclosure, I might have seen a TikTok where someone did something similar, except they were clothed and not completely unhinged. Anyway, I prop my phone up on the toilet, press record, and let it roll. It's 5 solid minutes of me crying naked in the fetal position while water pours over my sad little body. At one point, I whisper, "I don't even know who I am anymore," like I'm auditioning for an Oscar. Then, as if that weren't enough, I finished the video with a whispery monologue about time being a circle and maybe I was never really loved in the first place. I watched the video once, cry again, less naked this time, and decide to save it for the archives. I give it a very clear label so I never accidentally open it again. do_not_open_shower_meltdown_final, MP4. The next day, I roll into work half functioning. Eyes puffy, soul crushed, but trying to blend in. I sit at my desk, open my laptop, and see a Slack notification from our HR team. We got a mandatory meeting about a new wellness initiative, and they want everyone to submit a short video about how you manage stress or what helps you feel better after a tough time. It's meant to be fun, relatable, raw, but HR-friendly. Deadline. End of day. I immediately think, not today, Satan, and ignore it. But as the day goes on, people start sharing. Becky from marketing posts a cute clip of her making candles. Dave in sales made a video of him shredding on his guitar. Sarah from DevOps shared a time-lapse of her baking a pie while a cat sat on her head. Everyone's being vulnerable in a very curated, Instagrammable way. Around 4:30 p.m., I realize I haven't submitted anything. I panic. My boss messages me directly and says something like, "Hey, looking forward to seeing your clip." So I figure I'll just upload some video as a placeholder, then message HR and tell them to delete it and say I accidentally uploaded the wrong file. I go into my phone, look for a video I took last month of me jogging in the park, which seemed wholesome enough, and airdrop it to my laptop. At least I thought I did. What I actually uploaded, thanks to some sick joke from the universe, and the fact that the files had similar thumbnails, was the full, uncut, emotionally catastrophic shower meltdown video. I didn't realize my mistake until the next morning. I show up at work to a sea of side eyes and tight-lipped smiles. People are acting weird. My boss avoids eye contact. One guy gives me a slow nod of solidarity, which I brush off. Then I check Slack. There, under the #WellnessWins channel, is a post from HR. Love how honest and real everyone is being. Here's a video submission that really moved us. Let's all give a big virtual hug to my name for sharing something so raw and powerful. There's my name. There's the video. Already 57 emoji reactions, some hearts, a few crying faces, and even a damn fire emoji. I click it, and there I am, naked,
Crying.
whispering about time being a circle and how maybe love is a lie. 5 full minutes. I must have uploaded the wrong file and not double-checked. And HR, bless their well-intentioned hearts, thought I was being ultra-brave and vulnerable and immediately shared it with the entire company's Slack. I nearly passed out. Tried to delete it, but it was too late. The internet never forgets. Screenshots were taken. Memes were made. Someone dubbed in a Sarah McLachlan song over my sobbing and made a parody titled, "For just $1 a day, you can help this broken man." Another person made a gif of me whispering, "I don't even know who I am anymore," and posted it with the caption, "Monday vibes." I considered quitting. I seriously drafted the email. But something wild happened over the next couple days. People kept coming up to me in person on Slack, even over email, saying how much the video resonated with them. One guy said he hadn't cried in 5 years until he saw it. Another told me it made him realize he needed to leave his toxic relationship. Even the CEO messaged me. That was intense. Brave of you to share. Hope you're doing okay. Let me know if you want to take a few days. Suddenly, I was the poster boy for emotional authenticity. So now I'm that guy. The dude who had a full-on breakdown in the shower and accidentally became a company-wide inspiration. There's talk of using the video, with clothes added via tasteful editing, in future HR onboarding materials. I begged them not to. We're still negotiating. Moral of the story: triple-check your uploads. Label your meltdown files with something truly terrifying like taxes_2012 zip so you never click them again. And maybe keep your naked therapy sessions off the cloud. Also, maybe don't film them in the first place. TIFU by telling my boss I was being hunted by the government. Let me preface this by saying I am not a conspiracy theorist. I'm not one of those people who wears tinfoil hats or rants on street corners about shadow organizations. I'm just a 29-year-old guy who works in IT for a fairly large marketing firm in the Midwest, and last Tuesday, I was just trying to dodge a performance review. The company I work for has a reputation for running incredibly detailed, painfully long quarterly evaluations. These reviews are not only soul-sucking, but they're run by my boss, Claire, who has the empathy of a vending machine and the memory of a courtroom stenographer. If you were late to a Zoom call back in January, she will know. If you took more than your allocated lunch break in February, she has it logged. So you can understand my fear when I realized I had forgotten about the review entirely and was supposed to be in her office in 5 minutes. Here's where I start to mess up. In a moment of pure panic, I decide that calling in sick is too transparent. I needed something dramatic. Something that would buy me a couple of days without raising too many questions. So, I send an email. It read, "Claire, I won't be able to attend the review today. I've had to leave town due to a personal emergency. It's sensitive and I can't get into the details right now, but I'm cooperating with federal authorities regarding a matter of national security." I sat there for a full minute rereading it, thinking, yeah, that sounds mysterious but legit. I added that I'd be in touch as soon as things settled. No further details. Hit send. Turned off notifications. Figured I'd go to Chipotle and binge some Netflix while letting the smoke clear. That was mistake number 1. Mistake number 2 was underestimating Claire's capacity for paranoia and her unhealthy obsession with chain-of-command escalation. Apparently, after receiving my cryptic message, she called HR. HR then called legal. Legal called the CEO. And by 3 p.m., a company-wide internal memo was drafted, advising employees to remain alert due to an unspecified but potentially critical national threat linked to a member of the IT department.
Let me repeat that.
I made our CEO believe our firm was compromised from within. Like I was some Edward Snowden with a lanyard and company polo. By the time I checked my phone around 6 p.m., I had 47 missed calls, 112 texts, and one voicemail from my mom that just said, "What did you do?" in a tone I hadn't heard since the great middle school fire alarm incident of 2007. Still unaware of the full scope of what I'd done, I called Claire back. Her first words were, "Are you safe? Are they listening?" Now I'm panicking, because I thought she might just think I had jury duty or something. But no, Claire thought I was being hunted. Or worse, part of the hunt. I try to backpedal. I say it's not as serious as it sounds. But that only made her lean in more. She whispered, "Just say yes or no. Do you need extraction?" Extraction. I realize I've gone too far, but instead of admitting I made it all up to dodge a 40-minute review about my calendar management skills, I doubled down. I told her I was under a gag order and wasn't supposed to discuss it over unsecured lines. I even suggested she avoid talking about it to anyone else for her safety. Claire, to her credit, took this like a pro. She thanked me for my bravery and said she would burn the notes from my file immediately. That felt extreme, but also a win. Anyway, that's when she did something truly next level. She contacted her brother, who works at a local news station. Not a big network, just one of those cable news affiliates that nobody watches unless there's a tornado or a mayoral scandal. The next morning, that channel ran a brief, vague segment about a potential cyber threat in the Midwest region. It didn't mention my company by name, but it did include the phrase internal whistleblower. You better believe everyone at work was now trying to figure out who the whistleblower was. Slack was chaos. People were accusing each other of everything from embezzling to espionage. Meanwhile, I was just trying to avoid making eye contact with my neighbor while walking my dog. Every buzz of my phone gave me hives. By Thursday, I knew I had to come clean. Not because my conscience got the better of me, but because Claire emailed me a draft of an internal hero spotlight she wanted to post on our company website.
It had my photo on it.
It called me the firewall between us and them. There was an actual section titled Anonymous Courage. I couldn't let that happen. I finally confessed everything to Claire. I explained it started with a panic and spiraled wildly out of control. I told her I wasn't involved in any federal investigation. I just didn't want to sit through a performance review while hungover and bloated from a burrito bowl. Her face turned cold.
She didn't yell.
She didn't fire me. She just stared at me for a long time and said, "You're rescheduled for Monday at 9 a.m. and you better not be sick." She's since removed the hero spotlight from the draft queue, but I have a sneaking suspicion that she printed a copy and keeps it in a drawer somewhere out of spite. HR made me take a 3-hour ethics training titled Professional Communication in Crisis Situations. I'm not even sure what that means. But the worst part? The performance review still happened. Claire spent a full 5 minutes on a PowerPoint slide labeled Trustworthiness, Areas for Improvement. And every time someone walks past my desk, they whisper the firewall and salute. I deserve it. This actually started over a year ago, but the full extent of the up only became clear this week, and I'm still reeling. I live in a mid-sized apartment complex in a city where neighbors nod but don't really talk. I moved here after a rough breakup, got a decent one-bedroom, and pretty much minded my own business. I'd occasionally chat with a few people on the elevator or exchange small talk in the mailroom. One of those people was my neighbor across the hall, Sarah. Sarah seemed cool. Mid-30s, like me, had a rescue greyhound named Soda, worked in marketing or PR, I forget exactly. We weren't close, but we talked sometimes about the weather, her dog, or what a disaster our building's laundry room was. One night, probably a month after I moved in, I was coming home late from work. I was tired, suit all wrinkled, holding a takeout bag, and trying not to drop my keys. As I was unlocking my door, Sarah popped out of hers, slightly panicked. She saw me, hesitated, then said, "Oh, thank God, hey babe," and pulled me into a hug. I was stunned but not totally opposed to being hugged by an attractive woman. Before I could ask what was happening, a middle-aged woman walked up the hallway behind her with a suitcase. Sarah whispered, "Just go with it," then turned to the woman and said, "Mom, this is Ethan. My husband." "I am not Ethan. That is not my name. But I am apparently good at looking like a husband in a crisis." I kind of stood there awkwardly, but Sarah squeezed my hand and gave me this look that said, "Please, please, just pretend." So I smiled, nodded, and said, "Hi, nice to meet you." Her mom was cold, polite, but clearly skeptical. I figured Sarah was just trying to keep her mom off her back. People fake relationships to avoid awkward questions all the time, right? I played along for 5 minutes tops, long enough for Sarah to take her mom inside. I went into my apartment, thinking that was that. Only it wasn't. Over the next few days, I'd run into her in the hall, and she'd thank me again, saying it helped a lot. Her mom was only staying for the weekend. No big deal. Except the next time her mom visited, 2 months later, Sarah texted me in advance. "Can you be Ethan again? Just dinner. I'll make lasagna." Now, I should have asked more questions. I really should have. But I was lonely, I like lasagna, and honestly, it was kind of fun pretending to be this laid-back, funny husband who loved his wife and dog. It was a little game. A weird, secret improv bit between neighbors. So I became Ethan. Once every few months. For a dinner, or a quick hello. Her mom came into town a lot. Sarah said she was sick, that it was easier to keep up the charade than explain things. I didn't press it. Then it escalated. She had pictures of us on her fridge. Ones I didn't even know she took. A birthday card signed E and S. She started introducing me to other people in the building as her husband. Her dog walker. The UPS guy. Once, even her boss. I played along because I didn't want to blow her cover. I figured maybe she had reasons. Maybe it was for a lease agreement. Or a weird family inheritance thing. I didn't know. Then she got me a toothbrush for her apartment. I started feeling uncomfortable. I told her we needed to talk about ending the act, that it was going too far. She promised to come clean after one last visit from her mom. I agreed. The visit came. I did my part. Smiled, laughed, cleared dishes. Her mom seemed warmer this time. I left early, relieved that it was over. It was not over. This past Monday, I got home from work and found Sarah pacing in the hallway. Her face was pale. Her hands were shaking. I thought something terrible had happened.
"Hey," she said.
"I need to tell you something, and you're going to hate me. Not what you want to hear from someone who's been calling you their husband in public." She sat me down on her couch and started explaining. It turns out her mom didn't just believe we were married. She told everyone. Her entire family. Friends back home. Church group. Her dad's lawyer. See, Sarah had been named in her grandfather's will, but only under the condition that she be happily married at the time of his passing. The clause was old-fashioned and kind of sexist, but it was real and legally binding. When her grandfather died last year, she panicked and told her family she'd gotten married in a small private ceremony during the pandemic. She even sent them a photo of us. Me holding soda like she was a baby, with Sarah kissing my cheek. Her mom had shared that picture at the funeral. So the inheritance was processed. She got a significant amount. Enough that she didn't have to work for a while. Enough that she bought the apartment she'd been renting. In cash. And now, here's the kicker. Her family was throwing us a 1-year anniversary party. In her hometown. 4 hours away.
She wanted me to go.
I just stared at her. I could feel the floor spinning. "I never thought it would get this far," she said. "I was going to tell you, but every time I tried, it just got more complicated. And then it felt kind of nice. Having a husband, I mean, not in a creepy way, just like playing house. You're easy to be around."
I didn't know what to say.
I still don't. She swore up and down that she'd pay me if I came with her to this party. That she'd come clean afterward. That we could end things amicably. I told her I needed time. That night, I couldn't sleep. All I could think about was the year of my life where I'd apparently been married, without knowing it. Where people thought I was someone's partner, when I was just a lonely guy who liked lasagna and couldn't say no. I didn't go to the party. I'm writing this now because yesterday, a flower arrangement arrived at my door. From Sarah's mom. With a card that read, "To my wonderful son-in-law Ethan. Thank you for taking care of my girl. Hope to see you both again soon." I think I might have a nervous breakdown. She still hasn't told them. TIFU by letting my girlfriend's mom walk in on the most unfortunate misunderstanding in human history. So, this happened a few weeks ago, and my brain still replays it like a director's cut of a cringy rom-com with zero budget and a full cast of social anxiety. I, 29M, have been dating my girlfriend Emily, 27F, for just over a year. Things have been going great, and I was finally invited to spend a long weekend at her parents' house, which is in a lovely, quiet town about 4 hours from where we live. The plan was meet the folks, impress them, show them I'm not a serial killer, eat her mom's allegedly famous pot roast, and go home with their blessing, and maybe a slice of cake. Now, important context. Emily's parents are reserved. Like Real Norman Rockwell Americana reserved. Her dad wears sweater vests unironically, and her mom refers to wine as evening juice. They're polite, very religious, and there are porcelain angels on literally every flat surface of their home. The kind of people who still say gosh and fiddlesticks. So, naturally, we agreed that Emily and I would be sleeping in separate rooms. That's where the snowball starts rolling. The second night of our stay, Emily and I snuck off for a little late-night makeout session in the downstairs den. It was innocent enough at first, just some giggling and kissing under a blanket like teenagers. But one thing led to another, and we're getting into some PG-13 territory when we hear creaking upstairs. Panic ensues. Emily, being quick-thinking and barefoot, scrambles into the bathroom while I, in my infinite wisdom, decide to make a break for her guest room. Here's where I made my critical error. I grabbed the wrong door. Instead of the guest room, I barged into her mom's craft room, which is a confusing labyrinth of yarn, doilies, and doll heads. I don't know if you've ever tried to hide in a room filled with haunted Victorian dolls, but it's a spiritual experience. I curled up behind a floral armchair, half naked, praying to every porcelain saint in the room that no one would find me. Minutes pass. Then I hear footsteps. I hold my breath. The door opens. In walks Emily's mom. She's wearing a face mask, not like a skincare one.
No.
She has one of those sleep apnea Darth Vader-looking CPAP masks slung around her neck and a bottle of chamomile tea in hand. She clearly came in for some nighttime knitting because apparently that's her vibe. Now, in the dim light, she doesn't immediately see me, but I see her. And I panic. I try to shift behind the chair to get a better angle to escape, and in the process, I knock over what I can only describe as a yarn shrine. It topples like a woolen avalanche, scattering across the floor with the sound of 1,000 sins. She freezes. I freeze. We lock eyes. There I am, shirtless, covered in rogue skeins of yarn, crouching like Gollum, breathing heavily, eyes wide. She doesn't scream. She doesn't faint. She says, in a terrifyingly calm voice, "What are you doing?" Now, I could have said anything. Literally anything would have been better than what came out of my mouth, which was, surprise?
Surprise.
Like I was the world's worst magician emerging from a hat. She steps back. Are you hiding? I nod slowly, like some kind of cryptid caught mid-forage. She stares at me in silence for full 10 seconds that felt like 10 years. Then she mutters, "Lord, give me strength," closes the door and walks away. I stayed frozen for another minute, then bolted for the guest room and locked the door. Emily comes back 10 minutes later, red in the face, tears in her eyes from laughing and mortified at the same time. Apparently her mom went to her room, sat down on the bed, and said, "There's a half-naked man in my yarn room, and I don't have the emotional bandwidth to address it tonight." The next morning was tense. Breakfast was silent, except for the gentle clinking of spoons. Her dad looked like he wanted to say something, but couldn't quite form the words. Her mom smiled, a tight, terrifying smile that made me feel like I was on trial for war crimes. Then she served me an omelet shaped like a heart. I don't know if that was forgiveness or a threat. We left a day early. Now, Emily and I are still together, but the topic is strictly off limits. Her mom hasn't brought it up again, though last week she sent us a handmade quilt that had a stitched angel in the corner holding what suspiciously looked like a ball of yarn, and a man peeking out from behind a chair. I'm 99% sure it was a warning. TIFU by accidentally becoming my boss's fake husband and ruining her real relationship. I, 29M, work at a mid-sized consulting firm in Chicago. I'm not a standout, just a regular guy doing regular work. My boss, Vanessa, 32F, is a total powerhouse, smart, confident, and somehow always put together like she has a team of stylists following her around. We weren't close, just polite and professional. Last September, things started to go sideways. It started with an email, urgent, +1 needed for family wedding. Details below. It was from Vanessa, sent to the entire department. Most people ignored it. I, however, was still trying to make a good impression and replied, jokingly, I clean up well and can do the electric slide. I'm in. She replied within 5 minutes. Perfect. You're now my husband. Wear a suit. Saturday, 4 p.m. Don't be late. I thought it was a joke, like an office prank. But then she texted me the address and a photo of a wedding invitation. Long story short, she needed a fake husband to attend her cousin's wedding in the suburbs because apparently her actual fiancé had broken up with her 3 weeks before, but she hadn't told her very overbearing family. I showed up. Looking good, by the way, in my best read, only suit. Vanessa met me outside looking like she walked off the cover of a bridal magazine, shoved a wedding ring box into my hand, and whispered, just follow my lead. Y'all. I was in a live-action rom-com. We walked in holding hands, and she introduced me to everyone as her husband of 2 months. Her aunt sobbed and kissed me on the cheek. Her grandmother grabbed my face and said, you're so much better than that last one. At dinner, I was seated next to her dad. The man grilled me like a steak. What did I do? How much did I make? Did I want kids? I panicked and made up a whole backstory. I was a freelance landscape photographer who traveled to Iceland often. We met at an art gallery. I proposed on a glacier. It was pure nonsense, but they ate it up. Vanessa played along so well, I started forgetting we were lying. She touched my arm when she laughed, kept calling me babe, and even danced with me like we were actually in love. Honestly, I think I fell a little in love with her that night. Things got weird at dessert. Her actual ex, Marcus, showed up. Apparently, he was still invited because the family thought they were on a break. He saw me, saw her, and walked right up to our table. Vanessa squeezed my hand so hard, I thought I might never feel my fingers again. Marcus asked her point blank, who the hell is this? Without missing a beat, she said, this is my husband. We eloped. Surprise. Marcus looked like he'd been gut-punched. He stormed out. We survived the night. In the car, she thanked me profusely and said, honestly, you were amazing. I replied, well, I do specialize in glacier proposals. I thought that was the end of it. I expected things to return to normal Monday. But that's when everything snowballed. Apparently, her family was so enamored with me, they insisted we come to Thanksgiving. Vanessa, instead of coming clean, asked if I could play along one more time. I said yes because I'm a moron and maybe a little bit because I liked pretending to be her husband. We went to Thanksgiving. Then her cousin's baby shower. Then Christmas. Over the next few months, we built a whole fake marriage. Inside jokes. Stories about our honeymoon in Portugal. We even got a joint gift from her aunt, matching aprons that said Mr. and Mrs. Bossy Pants. We took photos with them for the group chat. The weird part? At work, everything stayed professional. But outside of it, this fake relationship felt real. We'd hang out just to stay in character, but sometimes we forgot to fake anything. We binge-watched shows. She met my dog. I cooked her dinner. Once, She fell asleep on my couch, and I didn't want to move because it felt so stupidly perfect. Then came the real screw-up. Her birthday. I got her a gift. Nothing crazy, just a book I knew she wanted and a framed photo I took of her laughing at the baby shower. She stared at it for a long time, said nothing, hugged me. The next day at work, she was cold, distant. I thought I had overstepped. That Friday, Marcus showed up again. But this time, not angry, he was begging her to take him back.
Told her he'd changed.
That she could leave her fake husband, and they could start fresh. She said she needed time to think. I didn't know any of this until she called me 2 days later and asked to meet at a coffee shop. We sat down. She looked tired. She told me everything. That she never expected this fake relationship to go on this long. That it was a bad idea to involve me. That it wasn't fair. Then she said, I think I need to fix what I broke with Marcus. He was a mess, but I still love him. I sat there, smiling like an idiot, saying it was okay. That I understood. That I hoped they'd be happy. Inside, I felt like someone had pulled the floor out from under me. We haven't talked outside of work since. She's still polite, professional, but all the warmth is gone. I still see her sometimes looking at me during meetings, and I wonder if she ever thinks about the time we danced in a stranger's backyard pretending to be in love. I wonder if she ever meant it, even for a second. And I can't stop thinking about how I became the best fake husband she ever had, and how that might be the realest thing I've ever felt. TIFU by taking a nap during my sister's wedding and waking up in the wrong church halfway through someone else's ceremony. My sister got married last weekend in a small town in Vermont. It was this picturesque, woodsy venue tucked behind a ridge, with pine trees lining the gravel driveway and a quaint little white church that looked like it had been plucked out of a Hallmark movie. The whole thing was very chic cottage meets rustic farmhouse, and I'd be lying if I said it wasn't kind of beautiful. I had driven in the night before from Boston and hadn't slept well at the inn because the walls were thin, and apparently the couple in the room next to me were honeymooning a day early. So I was a bit of a zombie the next morning, but I figured, it's a wedding, how hard can this be? Smile. Eat cake. Don't embarrass yourself.
Easy.
The ceremony was scheduled for 3 p.m., and since my sister was busy getting ready with her bridal squad, I had a good chunk of time to kill after breakfast. I wasn't in the wedding party. She had a no siblings in the wedding rule to avoid family drama, but I still wanted to be early, so I drove over to the church around 1:30 to get a good seat and maybe chat with our grandparents before everything started. When I got there, the parking lot was about half full. I assumed other guests had the same idea. I grabbed a seat in one of the pews about 5 rows from the front and waited. After maybe 15 minutes of sitting upright and scrolling through my phone, the combination of bad sleep, full stomach, and early spring sunlight streaming through stained glass did me in. I stretched out a little, leaned back against the polished oak pew, and the next thing I knew, I was out cold. I woke up to soft music and the sight of a woman in a white dress walking down the aisle. It was jarring. Not just the whole asterisk. Wait, did I miss the beginning of the wedding? Asterisk feeling, but also because I didn't recognize her. At first I thought I was still groggy. But no, my sister is tall with curly red hair. The bride walking down the aisle was petite and brunette. I craned my neck, looking around at the guests. I didn't recognize anyone. Not a single soul. It dawned on me slowly, like a bad dream becoming real. I was in the wrong wedding. Panicking, I tried to stand up and quietly slip out the side aisle, but the pews were tight and I accidentally knocked over a woman's purse on my way out. Lipsticks and tissues and a bottle of prescription pills went clattering to the floor like confetti. The woman gasped. I whispered 1,000 apologies while frantically gathering her belongings. Everyone turned to look, including the bride. I wanted to disappear into the carpet. I finally shuffled out the side door with all the grace of a raccoon caught in a spotlight and stumbled into the bright sunlight. My phone said it was 3:12 p.m. My sister's wedding had definitely started by now. In a panic, I pulled up the invite on my phone and rechecked the address. My stomach dropped. I had gone to First Congregational Church on Maple Street, but the wedding was at First Community Church on Maple Lane. Not even a mile apart, but they might as well have been different planets. I bolted to my car, like a man escaping prison. My GPS said I was 8 minutes away. I drove like a maniac through the sleepy Vermont backroads, muttering every swear word I knew. I skidded into the parking lot of the right church and could already hear the organ music playing inside. There were ushers at the front door, and one of them was my Uncle Bill, looking very confused. "Where the hell have you been?" he hissed as I jogged up the steps, tie askew and sweating. "Wrong church," I panted.
What?
Long story. He ushered me in, just in time to catch the very end of the vows. I slipped into a pew next to my cousin, who gave me a side eye that could have melted glass. My sister and her now husband kissed. Applause. I clapped like my life depended on it, trying to blend in like I hadn't just missed the whole damn ceremony. At the reception, my mom asked where I'd been, and I confessed the whole thing. She laughed so hard she had to sit down. My dad, on the other hand, just shook his head and muttered something about classic Jake. The best part? The other wedding I crashed was apparently a very small, tight-knit family event. I only found that out later when someone posted about it on the town's local Facebook group. A post titled, "Who is the random guy at my daughter's wedding?" showed a blurry picture of me mid-escape, looking exactly like what I was, a confused stranger waking up in the wrong life. The comments were savage. Someone said I looked like a time traveler. Another thought I was a wedding crasher testing a new technique. One guy just said, "Legend." I haven't told my sister everything yet. I think I'll wait for her honeymoon to end before I break the full story. Right now, she still thinks I just got stuck in traffic. In conclusion, if you're going to nap in a church, maybe double-check you're in the right one first. TIFU by accidentally joining a cult because I was too polite to say no. This all started about 2 months ago. I, 29M, had just moved to a new city for work. I didn't know anyone, and I was doing that thing where you say yes to every social event just to not be alone with your IKEA furniture and thoughts. I'm not particularly extroverted, but I can fake it for about an hour before I start to sweat through my shirt and forget how to smile like a human. Anyway, I was at a farmer's market one Saturday, trying to be healthy, buy organic kale, pretend I didn't just eat Taco Bell at 2 a.m., and this extremely friendly guy named Seth starts talking to me at a honey booth. He had that cult leader charisma, though I didn't know it at the time. He complimented my shirt, a faded Legend of Zelda tee, which no one ever does, so I was already in too deep. We got to chatting about hobbies, living in the city, existential dread, the usual. Then he says, "Hey, a few of us get together on Sunday evenings for a group thing. It's super low-key, kind of spiritual but not religious. You should come by." Red flag?
Yes.
Did I ignore it because I was lonely and he made me laugh twice? Also yes. So I show up the next evening to this house in a quiet neighborhood. It's a little too clean. Like serial killer clean. Everyone there is unnervingly attractive, like Netflix original series level attractive. They're wearing linen, barefoot, sipping some kind of earthy tea that tastes like boiled bark and regret. I should have left when a woman hugged me and whispered, "You have ancient eyes." But again, polite. We sit in a circle and share energies. I thought this would be like a support group vibe, but instead, they made us close our eyes and hum in sync with the Earth's vibration. I don't know what the Earth sounds like, but I went with a low, because I'm a coward. It escalates quickly. After the humming, a guy named River, of course his name was River, starts talking about cleansing our inner toxins and how we've all been chosen to help humanity ascend. Then there's this moment where everyone turns to look at me, and I swear to God, Seth says, "We've been waiting for your energy."
Now.
A normal person would have run. But I just kind of laughed awkwardly, thinking it was a joke. It was not a joke. River brings out this massive book, like a Necronomicon-looking thing, and asks me to place my hand on it. I say something like, "Haha, okay, what is this, D&D?" trying to lighten the mood. No one laughs. Hand on the book, they all start chanting. I wish I were exaggerating. It's some kind of mix between Sanskrit and Simlish. At this point, I'm mentally checking my options. Do I run? Do I pretend to faint? Do I embrace my new life as a linen-wearing crystal healer? I made the worst possible choice. I just stayed. They finished chanting, Everyone's sweaty and tearful like they just ran a marathon of emotions, and River declares me the catalyst. Not a catalyst. The catalyst. Apparently, I now had some spiritual significance in their group because of my vibration signature. I don't even know what that means. I have a Fitbit. That's the extent of my vibration data. So for the next few weeks, I go back every Sunday because I'm too polite and weirdly curious. They start giving me gifts. Hand-carved wooden spoons, a robe, a vegan candle that smells like despair. They teach me about the Great Alignment, which is supposed to happen in April. It's always April, and how I'm the key to awakening the divine spiral consciousness. I still don't really know what that is. Then comes the retreat. It's a weekend-long thing in the woods. I tell myself it'll be like camping, only with more kale chips. I pack a bag and go. First thing they do is take everyone's phone to detach from material distractions. I try to protest, but River touches my shoulder and says, "You won't need it where you're going." I think he meant spiritually, but it sounded ominous. The retreat is 3 days of fasting, chanting, and drinking something called the sacred brew, which is just fermented beet juice with floating bits of something. I'm pretty sure it was mold. Everyone starts having visions. I just get a headache and diarrhea. The night before we're supposed to leave, they hold a ceremony. I kid you not. They dress me in this weird feathered outfit, put ash on my face, and carry me to this rock in the woods. There's drumming. There's fire. There's definitely a woman speaking in tongues. Then River declares me ready to transcend the vessel. This is the moment I realize they think I'm going to die. Or ascend. Possibly both. I finally break. I stand up, ash and all, and say something like, "Hey, no offense, but I really don't want to transcend anything, okay? I like vessels. I just got health insurance." Seth looks heartbroken. River looks furious. One of the women starts weeping and says I've disrupted the cosmic flow. I grab my stuff, hike through 2 miles of woods, find a gas station, and call an Uber using the emergency app on my backup phone. Never thought I'd need that. The driver didn't say a word the whole ride back. I was still wearing the feather robe. Back at home, I take the longest shower of my life. Blocked everyone. Reported their group website, which, by the way, had a section titled Meet Our Luminaries. I started going to a very normal book club full of retired teachers who drink boxed wine and argue about Agatha Christie. Much better cult, honestly. So yeah, TIFU by letting my need to be liked get me inducted into a linen-clad pseudo-religious beet juice death circle. I still can't look at kale without flinching. This happened about 6 months ago, and I still break out into a cold sweat just thinking about it. At the time, I thought I was being smooth, charming, clever even. In hindsight, I now understand why my therapist sighs so much when I talk. So, a bit of background, I, 27M, had just started dating this girl, Maya, 26F. She was this hilarious, quick-witted nurse who I met at a mutual friend's birthday party. We hit it off fast, talked for hours about food, travel, obscure memes. During that conversation, she mentioned how much she loved food and how her family was obsessed with cooking. She said her dad was a retired chef and her mom ran a catering business. So what did I, a man who once almost burned down his kitchen boiling water, say in response? "Oh, yeah, I cook too. A lot." It was a lie. A stupid, ego-fueled, hormone-riddled lie. But she lit up and asked me what my signature dish was, and I panicked and said, "Duck confit."
Duck.
Confit.
I don't even know where to buy duck.
Fast forward 3 weeks, and we're getting pretty close. She invites me to her parents' house for dinner on a Sunday and says they want to do a cook-off. She casually drops, "Oh, I told them about your duck confit, and they're dying to try it." I'm standing there like someone just asked me to perform open-heart surgery. But I smile and say, "Can't wait." That week, I watched at least 30 YouTube videos about how to make duck confit. I read every blog post, even printed out recipes like I was studying for the bar exam. I went to 3 different butcher shops before I found duck legs. I bought all the ingredients, even imported Malden sea salt because some food snob in the comments said it made a difference. I prepped everything the night before. It smelled fine, I guess. I'd never smelled duck confit before, so I didn't really have a reference point. I slow cooked it in duck fat for hours, just like the video said. It looked right. I felt proud. I even plated it on my nicest dish and wrapped it like a culinary present. Sunday comes. I get to her parents' house, and it's straight out of a Martha Stewart catalog. Her dad greets me in a chef's coat. Not even joking. The man wore a literal chef's coat to a family dinner. Her mom had an apron embroidered with their last name and some cross spatulas. They were intense but warm. The kind of family that hugged too long, but meant well. Maya looked stunning, and I felt like I could actually pull this off. Her brother grilled steaks, her sister made some handmade pasta, and everyone oohed and awed when I unwrapped my duck like it was the centerpiece of a night. I reheated it gently, added a little finishing salt, plated it with some roasted garlic potatoes I bought pre-made, and claimed I made from scratch. Everyone sat down and started eating. And that's when things went to hell. Her mom took a bite, smiled, then frowned. Her dad took a bite and immediately reached for water. Maya took a bite and chewed slowly, like she was trying to figure out if she liked it or not. Then the coughing started. First her mom, then her brother. Her sister went to the bathroom and didn't come out for 20 minutes. Her dad was sweating like he just ran a marathon. And Maya just looked at me and asked, "What did you cook this in?" I said, confidently, "Duck fat." Her dad croaked out, "Where did you get it?" "Amazon," I said. It was in this big jar labeled Confiture de Canard. Looked legit. Her mom got up so fast her chair tipped over. She sprinted to the kitchen, returned with her phone, typed something in, and then gave me the most horrifying look I've ever seen. That wasn't duck fat. That was duck jam. You slow-cooked this meat in jam. Cue 5 people running to the bathroom like a herd of wildebeests. Turns out, confiture, in French, does not mean confit. It means jam. I had bought a huge jar of fancy duck jam, essentially a rich, sugary preserve made with duck meat, figs, and wine, and slow-cooked duck legs in it for 5 hours. I had turned a French delicacy into meat candy. And it gets worse. Apparently, slow-cooking duck in sugary jam for that long doesn't just ruin the flavor. It creates a breeding ground for bacteria, especially if you don't properly refrigerate it after cooking. Which I did not. Because I left it on my kitchen counter overnight, thinking it needed to rest. The entire family got food poisoning. Violent, unrelenting, Shakespearean tragedy-level food poisoning. I offered to take them to urgent care. Maya said very kindly, "Please just go." I drove home in silence, windows down, trying not to throw up from the guilt, or from the smell of duck candy still lingering in my car. Maya didn't text me back for 3 days. When she finally did, it was just, "They're okay, but they never want to see you again." I haven't spoken to her since. I now own 5 cookbooks, 2 meat thermometers, and I know exactly what confit means. I have a sticky note on my fridge that just says, "Jam is not equal to fat." Please, for the love of all that is holy, don't ever try to impress someone with duck confit unless you actually know what the hell you're doing. Thank you for watching until the end. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel so you won't miss new videos. Also, leave a comment. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Your support and engagement mean a lot to me. See you in the next video.